Welcome to a football show Monday edition brought to you by Sinkers Beverages. That is Paul Kuharsky in the middle of breaking news. I am Braden Gall as things are unfolding quickly for the Tennessee Titans. We have so much stuff to get to today. As the Titans request interviews, we will talk about those requests. We will get to that a little bit later on. There was a reorganization of the front office on Friday. You and I have not had a chance to talk about that, PK, so we'll get to that as it pertains to all of this. An interesting theme coming out of locker room cleanout day that you observed today, so we'll get to that, which is tied to the front office and the coaching search. We have an injury with the star quarterback who had not missed a snap. Of course, I think Titans fans went on a journey, which they thought it was a grade 3 AC joint in the shoulder, which could require surgery and could be the worst-case scenario. Seems like they got great news today on Monday after x-rays and medical evaluations. Could be a much shorter and smaller problem for the Titans. Still concerning. What does that all mean? An ugly loss at the hands of a division rival. The playoffs are set and the draft order is set. PK, just that today on the show. That's all.
Sounds like we should have enough.
Holy cow. Sinkers Beverages. I am doing dry January.
Good for you.
I've never done it before. I thought I'd try it out. So I'm going to try it out. And as I said this on Thursday, thanks to Sinkers Beverages, by the way, I've got mocktail options if I want one of those. I've got non-alcoholic beers, which are now more than ever available across a lot of different breweries. You can get those, of course, at Sinkers Beverages. And THC, of course, in the corner there, which is all totally legal, even if Paul Kuharsky is scared off by the reefer madness. Paul, here's the problem. I got a text message on Thursday when I said I was doing this from another former radio host. You know, two former radio hosts here on the show. A former radio host started yelling at me saying, you can imagine who, started yelling at me saying, yeah, that's not dry January. If you're doing THC beverages from Sinkers, that's not dry January. And Commander, still Billy in chief. I'm curious what you think about. Is it count as dry January if you are drinking THC beverages from Sinkers?
No.
Why not?
The point of dry January is to be sober, and sober is in by my account. It means you're not using altering substances, and so you give up altering substances.
So I don't understand this. Dry January has nothing to do with sobriety or other mind-altering substances. If I just did cocaine the entire month and didn't drink, I would still be dry.
Technically, yes, but you're going against the spirit of the movement, and the spirit of the movement is to get healthy, and to get healthy, you're giving up these sorts of things in a Lenten type fashion.
Very true. Most importantly, though, however, is that alcohol is the worst of most of these from a day-to-day use. However, there is no negative side effect of THC on the human body, so there is you are not less healthy.
It's good for you. People should have it. We should put it in the water like fluoride.
Do you not know anybody with cancer ever? Have you never known anybody with cancer?
It's good for maybe somebody with cancer, but that doesn't make it good for everybody all the time. You don't drive on it the same way you don't drive on.
Of course not.
I don't want to have this debate now. We just reviewed how much good Titan stuff we have to talk about. I'm not a proponent.
Look,
I think it makes people act foolishly, as alcohol does.
Well, sure. Also,
and I don't know any stoners who are brilliant.
Oh, that's not true. Jordan with the comment of the year, probably in the comments. I don't want to go out of the line here. I know it's only January 5th, but it could be the comment of 2026. Like the Titans, Braden is Cali sober. Jordan, PK doesn't get that joke. That is amazing. That is an amazing joke.
Yeah. Let's go with the
show. Jordan, I really like that. I appreciate that. Bustin' Diamond, good to see you. Of course, good afternoon. PK made me laugh with his Sneed tweet. We'll get to that. There's also a whole list of players. Chig sending out tweets saying goodbye to everybody. Like, is Tony Pollard and Calvin Ridley coming back next year? There's all kinds of other stuff. So you're right. There's a ton of news. Is it Ward's ass or elbow that is hurt? Looks like conflicting, unsettling answers. I don't think that's true. Let's see here. Sinkers won't like PK's answer. Braden, forcing PK and Stilly to unite. There you go. Okay, so first let's start with the game. I want to start with the game, which is I got so many. I don't know about you. I'm sure in your subscriber pod, I heard some of it. I'm sure a lot of people are just fed up with the season, with 2 straight years of 5 wins, with how they performed against the Jags, with the fact that they took a loss with the quarterback injury on the first drive, which is the first opening drive touchdown that Jacksonville has allowed all season. I don't think the Titans have scored an opening drive touchdown.
They did score one.
They did one. Okay. Basically one of the best opening drives in the season finale of a month supposedly filled with progress or minor progress. Quarterback dives for the pylon, gets hurt. Now at the time, fans very perturbed with what that injury could be or what it could mean. Reporting comes out. So, I think first and foremost, it is okay. I hear you, Titans fans, on how pissed off you are and how tired you are after 3 straight awful seasons, really 4, and to have 5 total wins in 2 years and to end it the way they did, losing the way they did, albeit with a glorified practice squad roster, and to lose the quarterback. That's not a great way to end the season, PK. No matter how you slice it and how much progress you made, it's a really ugly way to end the season, and it leaves a really bad taste in your mouth.
Yes, really shitty ending. I don't think they were competing with the Jaguars yesterday, even if Cam Ward had finished it, though maybe, because they started very well. That defense, I mean, the starting 5 in the secondary yesterday is going to be an answer to a trivia question, ultimately, and a very difficult answer to a trivia question. So the progress was all put to the side. I wrote a little bit about this, and it was a stark reminder of where they are, what they lack, all that they need, everything they need to work on. I didn't have any problem with Cam Ward playing. I think that's ridiculous. I don't have any problem with the call to Cam Ward. I think that's ridiculous. There's an element of risk. There's an element of luck. And they got unlucky there. Then, of course, people, think his career is over, with the initial diagnosis. Today comes back. I was one of many to say that it was, a sprain, that now it's hard to get specifics. I think it's probably, between grade 2, grade 3, but not surgical. So that's good. And then he said something that I speculated last night, that the mechanical work that he needs to do between now and the Titans reconvening in April is a lower body thing that doesn't involve his arm. So he's not prohibited from doing it. And he does not think that he said, I'm not going to fall behind. I'm working on my lower body, not my throwing mechanics. And so this doesn't set me back at all. I can do all of that stuff while I'm resting my arm. And so that slots perfectly. So all of this panic, largely unwarranted. Is it ideal that he's got a messed up shoulder right now? Of course not. But timing actually is kind of ideal, because January, February, March are the months where he's doing the least with his arm.
Yeah. So I've got Cam talking about a bunch of different answers about surgery and about some of the things you just mentioned. I want to put a bow on. Like I feel like Titans fans need someone to just say to them, like, I hear you, man. like all the progress we tried to find, all the things we searched out in the middle of a terrible season with an interim coach and a rookie quarterback, and trying to find development, trying to find progress, trying to find kernels of things you can hold on to, for fans to sort of be served that season finale and what happened in it. I understand that, like, I think to your point in your article, paulkuharsky.com, of course, which is it is I think stark reminder is the right phrase. Like, it is a stark reminder of, just even with all those things we tried to find throughout the season, it is a stark reminder that the roster needs a lot of work, that the front office is still not exactly finalized, as we'll discuss in a minute, that the coaching staff needs to be figured out, the quarterback and the receiving core, like, they've got glaring holes, and they are not close to the best teams in the league right now. And so I think that's okay for fans to be pissed off about that and let that sit in for a little while. Here was Cam Ward on Monday, not wearing a sling. He was wearing a sweatshirt, had his hands in his pocket. That right hand stayed, the throwing arm stayed in the sweatshirt the entire press conference. Here was a couple of answers all put together here as it pertains to his injury and sort of the diagnosis and then the work moving forward?
You said how long? There hasn't been a time limit yet, but it's a good thing. It's the off season. I got a couple months. I don't know that for sure. I guess I'm in the training room. But if that's the case, we're gonna do what I need to do. But I don't think that's the case right now. Doesn't push it back at all. I'm working on my base, on my mechanics. I'm not changing my throwing motion. So the timetable for what I have set to get to mechanically what I need to do is still on schedule.
All right, so you alluded to some of that, PK, already about the mechanics and how he's going to start working on his legs. Here's the thing, though. I know it's not the grade 3 that supposedly will not require surgery. I don't love his answer there when asked about surgery. He said, as of right now, I don't think so. That's up to the training staff. If they decide that needs to happen, they will. This is kind of what happened with Will Levis, correct? Like to some degree, in terms of trying to rehab it and get it healthy, deal with the pain, and then of course he made a mistake and needed to have surgery eventually after all of that. Some of that's because he re-injured it. A lot of this, when you read up on this particular shoulder injury, you might have pain the rest of your life when this happens. But a sprain versus a bone displacement is a big deal. So what do we know about the injury itself, PK? Is there any information we need to give to people about the injury itself in terms of what people need to understand? I agree you can do the footwork. You can go through the motions. You can watch film. You can do all that stuff. You still need to see it affect your arm, like where the ball lands, right, is still what matters about that. So you can do all the prep work. I agree. You still need to see where the ball goes in order to validate the footwork that you're working on. So I don't think it's as simple as, you can just do all that stuff and get all the same results and reach the same steps in his development. I hear you. I don't disagree, but I'm a little more cautious.
Yeah, I get your point, but it's not devastating.
Agree.
So I think, he can work through this stuff at this stage as best as he can with that. Surgery is off the table right now. He's trying to be politically safe there and not talk too much about it. And because the reports were out in advance, I think wisely the room didn't ask him a lot of the questions about the specifics of the injury, figuring that he wouldn't say much because as much was going to come out, it was already out. So I think that kind of explains that. No timetable, all of that. I mean, I think the timetable for what he has, extent. Excuse me.
Is about 3 to 6 months or 3 months?
No, extends to about 3 months
Yeah.
if it's non-surgical. Now, these things differ from guy to guy based on the severity, but guys like Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, Tony Romo have had things of this nature, not had surgery, and obviously recovered to play pretty effective football. Now, there's a list of guys that did have surgery. They tend to be further back. Chad Pennington, for example. And I
think later in their careers, you're saying?
No, further back on the timeline too. When
gotcha.
I think maybe people were more willing, more anxious to be invasive before.
I got you.
People were more willing to say, let's wait this out and see if it can't resolve itself.
Yeah. Bustin says, was it a dirty hit? I don't think so.
It was not a dirty hit.
Definitely not a dirty hit.
Why is this so overwhelming?
He landed on it awkwardly. He dove for the end zone.
And the guy landed on top of him. Guys land on top of people. I asked Willis that. I asked him about that, particularly to get it on the record, Ward, and he looked at me like I was insane. So I took a bullet for people like Bustin' Diamond, and he's like, we're playing football.
Any updates on L'Jarius Sneed? Did he ever find his way back into the locker room? The answer is no, but we'll get to that when we look at some of the players who are going to be either on the chopping block or basically decisions need to be made fairly quickly. Joey says, all right, I'm not trying to be rude here, but I'm going to let you have the comment and then we'll answer your question. Do you think Cam should be in the offensive rookie of the year conversation? Seeing a lot of shuck hype for it, wondering if you think he should be up there with some of those names. Ted McMillan, of course, Jackson Dart. The answer in a short form conversation is no. New Orleans, by the way, finished 8th in the draft order after beating Tennessee, and his numbers were almost as good as Cam Ward's in like a third of the number of starts. So,
yeah, that answer in a long form conversation is also no. He did not play well at all until and even I think what he did when he got better was not offensive rookie of the year caliber. I mean, the best rookie of the season is it Banks? The offensive tackle.
Calvin Banks, yeah.
Now he's not going to win it because there's no flash to it, but Cam Ward's not in the conversation and he shouldn't be.
I tend to agree with that. Ed says he was hoping for a Mike McCoy PK hug after the press conference.
He did shake hands. He shook hands with virtually everybody, and I held on to his hand for an extra second to make sure we made eye contact. And I said, "Hey, we came a long way, and I appreciate it."
Yeah, there you go. John, is this true? John Elway had the same injury and never had surgery. I don't know. I'll have to double check on that.
I don't know about Elway, but I did some searching last night while I was waiting for my plane, and that was not one of the names that came up.
Andrew says, "Hooray, the season is over." What is the difference between Cam's injury and Levis's injury, other than Levis trying to play through it severity-wise? That is,
well, Levis was a grade 2 initially, suffered in Miami, and then he re-aggravated it. Now Levis went the rest route, and then the politics of it, we don't know. So. There's definitely a political element to it. He was pissed off that they drafted a quarterback. He was not adjusting to the backup scenario, and he wanted to screw with the team. Now, was he still suffering pain, and did he need surgery? I can't speak for him on that, but certainly the timing of it was as shitty as it could be for the Titans. And he's put himself in a difficult spot. Right now, he's the second best quarterback on the Titans roster still. Is he going to be a jerk and a problem for them under a new head coach, in which case they'd want to get rid of him? I think that's his ideal scenario. I don't know why, because I don't know what kind of fresh start he gets and where he gets placed out of that with nobody having seen him throw. And there's no tape that's going to get out there of him throwing until he is at least an OTA. Yeah. And so it's a complicated situation. But this is similar. Now, I don't remember if Levis is his throwing shoulder or not.
I thought it was, but I guess that's a crazy thing not to remember, I feel like, for both of us.
Yes. You should have better memory.
It's all the THC. It's all the THC. Braden, haven't you seen? I haven't talked to you since the Oregon game, but David Bailey looked like defensive end number 1. Should the Titans draft him over Reese? No, I don't think so. I don't think he's a 3-down true pass rusher yet. I think he's a great middle of the first round selection, potentially late in the first round. We'll be talking a lot about that, so I'm going to put a pin in that for now, and we'll kind of move on because they are picking 4th, and we'll get to that. Would PK rather have my hair or mustache? I guarantee you the answer is not mustache.
I would rather have neither, frankly. I'm completely comfortable being bald. I don't particularly care for
my hair's not that great.
Your hairstyle, which isn't great. And the mustache is an abomination, and that's been established.
Yeah, well, except for established by some.
I mean, it would be okay
if
cut it straight. I don't know why we go with the Wild West theme, but
it's not. It is cut straight. In fact, I have cut it straight, not for you, but
still overhangs.
Oh God. Okay. See,
exaggerate it up, and then maybe it would look normal. Yeah. The opposite of a handlebar.
Caden says, "Will this podcast continue in the offseason?" Yes, it has. It's never quit. It never quits. It never takes time off.
I don't know if we have our permanent time slot, but
yes,
we'll establish one.
That is correct. We have not figured out a time slot yet, but we will probably still be Mondays and Thursdays, just like it was when we launched it 2.5 years ago, every single week. Let's see here. Is Cam left-handed better than Brandon Allen? Look, it's one of the roster spots that they're going to have to address is Levis versus Brandon Allen versus backup option or whatever. So
look, we knew he wasn't good. And, he hadn't been called on, and he got called on, and we found out just how not good he is.
All right. So this is a good way because Big 2033 is asking a question, says anything to elaborate regarding how everyone is on board with Borgonzi. So this is a good way to transition from the injury and all of the drama. I want to put a pin in the injury, just you and I here. I love the comments. I think at the end of the day, it is still on a bad team that's been bad at football with roster buildup problems and all the things that they have to do. I think it is more concerning that their star rookie quarterback got hurt and has to take months off from throwing going into a critical offseason. I don't think it's going to define his career. If it was a much more serious injury, I think it would. It potentially could. But I think right now it's not going to define his long-term hope for being a star or a great quarterback or a bad quarterback. But I do think it affects the team's development this offseason. I don't know how much. If to your point, we don't know if he comes back fully healthy quicker because it's a minor issue and he's on the earlier recovery path, then it's not a huge deal. But I think it's okay to be concerned about this. I'm not going to brush it off and just say there's nothing here. So
no,
I just want to leave it there.
Certainly, I agree. It's something there. It's not nearly as bad as it could have been. And if you're picking 3 months for your guy to not be able to throw, these are the 3 months that you would pick for him not to be able to throw. His exposure to his new coaches in terms of being able to be on the field with them. He's not allowed to be on the field with them during these 3 months. So if you're picking a scenario for your guy to not be with his coaches, able to throw, this is it. Some of these shoulder injuries become long-term things, so there's an element of mystery and intrigue and we don't know and all of that.
Yeah.
So you've got your fingers crossed for all of that. Some of them, a guy takes the time and and recovers and he's himself again. So, it's not nearly as cut and dried as say an ACL. Now you wouldn't want an ACL because an ACL has a long recovery timetable.
Right.
But guys pretty neatly recover from ACLs given the time. Now sometimes it takes into a second season and all of that, but exactly what you have with the torn ACL, the shoulder. as the first head coach I ever covered, Mike White, who recently passed away, told the whole room full of reporters with regard to Jeff Hostetler, the shoulders become much more complicated. Used to just be, a labrum and a rotator cuff, but now there's all kinds of stuff going on in there. And you'll have to talk to Garrett Guimont, the head strength guy for the Raiders at the time. You have to talk to Guy. This is above my this is more complicated than I know. You have to talk to Guy. And then he would finish and would say, "Can we talk to Guy?" And they'd say, "No, Guy doesn't talk."
That sounds like the 80s.
Very Raider-esque.
90s, I guess I should say.
Very Raider.
T-Town Brown, is that Tuscaloosa or is that Tullahoma? Damn, said that man's hair isn't great. I'm self-aware. I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it. I mean, PK's not a nice person, but I'm okay with it. Locker cleanout day seemed like a Borgonzi love fest, says Z Dean.
Look, so a lot of people asking, about the faith in their ability to get good. I did a video last night with stairs that spelled out Duval at Everbank Stadium over my shoulder. And I said, well, it's time for the Nashville to be like Duval and all these other teams that went from 4-13 to 13-4 in 1 year. Hire the right coach, add the right degree of people. It's not a sweeping change when the Commanders go from terrible to into the NFC Championship game last year. Now they've gone the other way again, but teams make quick jumps. We just saw Jacksonville do it. We just saw the Patriots do it. We just saw the Bears do it. I don't want to hear a bunch of excuses of why the Titans can't do it. They can do it, and they should do it. So some people picked up, not necessarily on my thing, but had the same thought. And I think Corey Curtis was asking that question of some people, why can't you be the Jags next year? And a lot of guys were saying, well, the reason to believe in us is upstairs. It's Mike Simmons was talking about Borgonzi. Other people were talking about Borgonzi. It struck me. And look, those things connect, and that makes perfect sense. I never, in now nearly 30 years of covering the league, had a cleanout day where the rallying cry was, we've got a great GM, right? I mean, you talk about the coach or the players or whatever. And look, I think Borgonzi is the best thing they've got going for them But even so, for the players to be rallying around the GM on cleanout day, I don't take it as a good thing. A lot of people were like, starting with the slogans again, we believe in Mike, all of that shit. I don't think it's a good sign. I think it reverts back to what we were talking about what I wrote, reminding you just how bad you have it.
I think it can be. I actually think it can be both. But so let's go back to Thursday. I think I alluded to this on the show a couple of weeks well before the announcement, and I didn't get. I got a tip that morning that this was happening. But I think a couple of weeks earlier, I think you and I had talked about this. Maybe Nick and I had talked about this a lot as well. That from what I understood is that Mike Borgonzi was going to drive the ship on the coaching search, and that Chad Brinker was going to be there to sort of supplement and help. And the picture that is painted for me, and I think for you and for most other folks, and certainly I think it's solidified after the announcement on Thursday, which is really just a small reorg. It's just Borgonzi's going to report to Amy Adams-Strunk and have full control over football. That's kind of all it was, which is clarification to some degree on what was a sort of complicated, but not that complicated arrangement in the front office.
It confused people, in particular your boy. Very, very.
Well, he likes
real brain twister for him.
They like line of chain of command to be very direct and understandable. And the picture I was getting was that everything that was being done, all the work, all the grinding, all the tape, all the scouting, all the decision-making was already Mike Borgonzi's. Yeah, that Chad Brinker was not really involved in much of any of this stuff. And I think Titans fans should be happy that they made the decision that they made and that Borgonzi is in this control element. More so, maybe less so. Again, not important how much more. But I think that was the picture that was portrayed to those of us covering this. And so I think the announcement is positive. And I think to your point, it's not great where the team and the roster is that they're all rallying around. What are their choices? An injured quarterback, a decent rookie class, no head coach, a new stadium. Like, what are they rallying around? There's not much there. And that's the concern. I do think it is good that all the players that are working for the guy believe in the guy they're working for. I think they trust him to go out and hire the right coach. At least that's what they're saying, or at least that's the message they're portraying. I think it can be both. There's a long way to go for the organization, but I do think that this is the one person who I have trusted to make decisions in a number of years in that building, and now he's in complete control, and the players like him too. I think that's a good thing.
All right, this takes me a couple places. Let me hit on a couple things. One, how much do you want the players tight with the GM? Last time we saw it as a disaster. Rand Carthon was boys with the players. It's not good for the GM. I'm not saying this is where Borgonzi is. I think there's a respectful distance there, and that's good. I don't want the GM tight with the players. GM's got to cut the players. GM's got to have a distance with the players. The players are family, but they're also a commodity. And you've got to have the right distance. I'm not suggesting there isn't. Nothing from Borgonzi's side suggests that he doesn't know the right distance. But the way the players were talking today, and Simmons, again, how much power does Simmons have? I don't think a lot, but that he talks as much as he talks to the GM, or the way he makes it sound, I don't want that. I don't want the team's best player to be talking to the GM that much, unless it's Patrick Mahomes. Unless it's Tom Brady. I don't want that. So I don't think that's a good thing. And I think that's only happening in part to fill the void because there's no real coach there. Because Callahan was a dud, and because McCoy was a longtime interim who was a dud. And what's the point of talking to him about big picture, long-term stuff when he's not going to be there? So I'll offer an allowance there. On this restructure, and I was arguing with somebody in the Titans brass about this in Jacksonville. Look, it's good they did what they did. But don't pretend like when you're saying we're going back to a more straightforward, less convoluted thing, that you weren't blowing smoke up everybody's ass for 2 years. When you say it's more straightforward, then you're admitting that for the last 2 years, it hasn't been straightforward. And you're admitting that it's been convoluted. And for 2 years, all of us have been telling you, this is not very straightforward. this is pretty convoluted. And you've been saying, no, this is the way we need to do it. We're reinventing the wheel here. This is really inventive, cutting edge stuff. Then with one press announcement, you take it away and you want us to be like, oh yeah, everything's cool. And just pretend like the last 2 years where you insisted we did not understand your genius didn't exist. And I'm not doing that.
Isn't it only just 1 year? Isn't it only just 1 year?
For 2 years, when Chad Brinker had power over final say as president of football operations, I believe.
Well, he and Carthon were in a different arrangement than he and Borgonzi.
All right. Well, for the last year then, when you had hired a football person, this tells me you didn't have sufficient confidence in Borgonzi when you hired him, because now you're willing to be straightforward, but last year you weren't. We have Borgonzi tomorrow. I'm going to ask him, hey, when should I put it on my calendar next year for you guys to readjust the front office power structure? Like Amy has to make a change every year. Will it be the Friday before the finale, the Tuesday after? At what point can we expect that? Or do you guys have some kind of control over her? And will this thing be some sort of consistency for actually 2 years in a row? Better yet, the 5 that you need.
Nothing you said is wrong or incorrect, and you have there's no reason not to say the things you're saying. Here's how I'm going to try to do this. I'm going to see what you think about this. I think they hired Rand Carthon, who then hired Chad Brinker, and they realized as time went on, A, this wasn't going to work with Mike Vrabel, number one. B, it wasn't that Brinker knew more about this stuff than Carthon did, and that there was issues with how Carthon handled his business. Fine. I think something similar happened here, where Brinker hires Borgonzi, and throughout the course of the year, they have realized Chad Brinker shouldn't be making these decisions. It's Borgonzi's decisions to be made. It's more about belief in Borgonzi and that Brinker doesn't really need to be doing all this stuff. And does that make sense? Like that?
Yeah, but they desperately needed Brinker to be doing it when Rand was supposed to be doing it, because Rand was terrible. So what you have to do is simply hire competent people and put them in the appropriate roles.
Well,
but they have to make it like what they did is bullshit us. Oh, well, we're coming up with this collaborative, new, innovative structure where we're going to create this new parallel power structure, and Chad's going to have a bunch of bullshit, but they can't admit it after the fact. They don't have to come up and say it's bullshit, but after the fact, they could do, we were, we were in a tough spot there.
Big 2033 says, it's funny, the Jaguars coaching search was an absolute dysfunctional disaster, but they picked the right coach and suddenly the owner is a genius. Two things real fast. First of all, Will Levis's best career season as a football player ever was while Liam Cohen was his coordinator. Baker Mayfield and the Bucs were a Super Bowl pick by you and others because of the performance last year with Liam Cohen as a coordinator. And now the Jags have done what they've done with Liam Cohen. So maybe there's first of all, something to Liam Cohen as a play caller and a schemer for sure. No question. But I think that the point that he's making, which is that the process can be totally screwed up and foobar. As long as you end up with the right results, people are willing to overlook all that stuff, especially fans who don't care as much about what we are told by someone one time and then it's not true. And they were talking out of both sides of their mouth. Yeah, they lucked into this good guy. I think what has happened is the wrong people were making football decisions. And I've talked to a few of them that will say, I was in that role and I don't want that role anymore. And they made football decisions, and that included advising Amy Adams Strunk to hire Rand Carthon and Chad Brinker to some degree. And I think what has happened is they now have football people making some of those football decisions and realize that Mike Borgonzi is so far by far the best guy for the job of the people they've tried. It's a totally messed up process. It's a totally foobar way of doing things. There's talking out of both sides of your mouth. There's hypocrisy. There's bullshitting. There's lying. I do think Titans fans, to boil it all down to the future, because they have a coaching search they have to conduct today and tomorrow and start to get to the Senior Bowl and start scouting players this week. I think the best guy for the job is actually in the role and has full say, I think, since probably John Robinson's early days. So you could argue this is the best football decision maker they've had in 5 years, 6 years, since before Isaiah Wilson's draft pick. And also, I think I'm okay with Titans fans being excited for a moment about that.
I'll say this. You don't have to jump to let Mike cook or
I agree.
Or the Borgonzi scheme or all of that. He looks good. given the context that we have, which is very short, like hit a great 4th round. Quarterback has a chance. He's not going to be Patrick Mahomes. 2nd round pick looked like shit when he was healthy. 3rd round pick,
Sure.
People are way excited about Kevin Winston for some reason, when I need a 3rd round safety to be able to cover, and he looked like a box safety. So I don't really understand the hype about Kevin Winston. Isle Manor, Helm, DK's a fantastic 4th round pick. But, Cody Barton was not a good signing. So I'm giving a red X on that one. I mean, Dan Moore, at least they made it clear to us what their expectations were, and it is what they told us it was going to be. But I still think the choice of McCoy as the interim coach was weak, and an alpha move when they had beta potential. A beta move when they had alpha potential. Yeah. And so I like Mike Borgonzi. Nobody's going to bat 100. Nobody's going to bat 1,000.
Right.
You don't want somebody that bats 100. But I need a bigger body of evidence, and I think he would tell you he needs a bigger body. And this is what Titans fans do. They see a little bit of good, and they're great. Chig Okonkwo yesterday tweeted what looked like a goodbye tweet. Now, I don't think his fate is sealed in stone, but if it is, they oh my God, we're losing Chig Okonkwo. Well, Chig Okonkwo has been good, but Chig Okonkwo is replaceable. And if they wind up with Kyle Pitts or a healthy Isaiah Likely, they could totally be way better than Chig Okonkwo if the coach coming in likes a guy like that and wants to use him in a certain way. So you can wait and see, but you don't need to throw a funeral parade for Chig and act like you lost Frank Wycheck or Delaney Walker.
Well, I just think you can say, I have no idea if he's good enough to build a Super Bowl championship team, or if drafting Cam Ward was the right thing, or if he can hire this coach. All of those things will define his career. But I feel more comfortable about the general manager position for the Tennessee Titans today than I have in 5 or 6 years. And that's all. That it doesn't mean that you jump to the greatness thing. And by the way, Logan says, so Paul doesn't let Borgonzi scheme. No, here's the deal. If you're going to do the scheme thing, you need to call it the Borgonzi scheme. That's what you have to call it. It's the Borgonzi scheme. Hey, what's your plan for the offseason? It's the Borgonzi scheme. If you're going to do that nonsense, I just think it's okay to be like, I think the arrangement today is better than what they've had in the last 3 to 5 years. And I think that's okay to say, all right, that gives us a shot. That gives us a shot to go not screw this up. $100+ million, number 4 overall pick, rookie quarterback, good class. Coaching search right now. You got to go high. He will be defined with what he does in this coaching search, more importantly than anything else. And so as we've seen the turnarounds, Big 23 says, Big 2033, it just came down to the fans wanting to know who to blame. I agree with that. Somebody said, and I apologize, you guys you're great in the comments here. Somebody said something about Kevin Stefanski getting fired and going kind of right to the front of the line. I would hire Kevin Stefanski right this second. I don't know what the rules are around hiring fired coaches or what you have to do to request an interview with them. I know you can interview Mike McCarthy right now if you wanted to. I wouldn't do that, but I would hire Kevin Stefanski right now.
Yeah, I don't know if you need permission to hire him. I can't imagine you do. I mean, he's fired. There's offset language certainly in his contract, but I like him a lot as well.
Yeah.
A couple other questions here. Spencer says, is it just PR telling guys what to say? PR does not have that kind of power. Some young guys, yeah, like DK, they could tell, and he would think. Jeffrey Simmons isn't praising Mike Borgonzi because PR is telling him. Jeffrey Simmons isn't doing anything that PR tells him. Peter Skoronski, might listen to their guidance, but he isn't doing much. Bustin' Diamond, if you scroll back a little, says, hopefully Sweat can lose about 20, 30 pounds working out with Simmons this offseason. Dude was just cultivating mass during his injury. I mean, you're buying that Jeffrey Simmons said he's not taking no for an answer for Sweat going to Dallas, so that means Sweat's going to show up in Dallas? How naive are you? I mean, I would bet a significant amount of money against Sweat showing up in Dallas. He didn't show up last year What makes you think he's going to show up this year?
I do
Jeffrey
think
Simmons is eating incredibly healthy with turmeric powder on every one of his meals. And you think Sweat is going to, of his own volition, go and endure what Jeffrey Simmons is doing. He didn't do it last year. He doesn't have a head coach right now. And you think he's going. We didn't hear from Sweat on this. We heard from Simmons on this.
Yeah, Simmons says he doesn't have a choice. I'm going to bring him with me, but to your point, we'll see what happens.
But you're going to put him in his suitcase and press that over his head? I think even that's a little much for Jeffrey Simmons.
How much would that cost to check? Look, here's the deal. What we've asked about players, because I don't think it is, and this goes for every sport. I don't think it is a veterans player's job to specifically teach and develop young players. I don't think it's their job to do that. It's not what they get paid to do. I think when you lead by example, though, that's the best version of what that is. And I think Simmons this year did more to help the other people around him in the locker room see what it takes to be great at this sport than I have ever seen him do ever in his career, and for most of the Titans in the last few years. So I think if anything, Jeffrey Simmons saying to a young player who's got the same position, who's got a ton of talent, but needs the same teaching that he probably took too long to get to, I still think is a good thing. I don't know what happens from it, but Simmons being in a position to speak to this stuff in a more authoritative way because he has now lived it, I think is a huge development for him and for the Titans.
Well, when Sweat doesn't do it,
I hear you.
And I say when because I have very low expectations.
I hear you.
It totally indicts him. And Simmons was willing to take that on last year and kind of bailed when Sweat didn't show. He was like done with him was what I heard.
I got you. A lot of questions about Raheem Morris in here. Is he going to get an interview now? I know they're casting a wide net, but let's not catch any more Barnacle. I don't like the Raheem Morris.
Hey, bring in Raheem Morris.
Let Kuharsky scream.
That's bad. Bring in Raheem Morris. Talk to him. And then if you hire an offensive head coach, maybe you've got your defensive coordinator.
Why haven't they requested an interview with Kubiak? Saw that the Falcons have.
You don't have to request everybody today.
Yeah. Hire Stefanski and bring in the O-line expert Bill Callahan.
Hire Stefanski and maybe bring in his defensive coordinator Jim Schwartz.
Which of course Jimmy Haslam. It seems like the Browns owner wants to keep Schwartz around, but I don't know how you do that without a coaching staff. Derrick Henry was the perfect lead by example guy for the Titans. Couldn't agree more with that. Let Devondre Sweat.
Yeah, he needs to.
I like that. All right, so let's get to some of the names. It seems like Nagy, Spagnoulu, Lou Anarumo, the defensive coordinator for the Indianapolis Colts, and Vance Joseph, as well as it appears Kevin Stefanski. Kind of the first round. There's a reason those names are the first round. You want to know why? They're all out of the playoffs, with the exception. They're all out of the playoffs or fired. And so those are the guys that are going to get focused on first. There's all kinds of complicated rules.
And I think you can talk to, I'm trying to think.
The bye week coaches.
Yeah, so Kubiak request should go in soon if you want him because you could talk to him this week.
Yep.
And who's the AFC bye?
That would be the Broncos. So
Vance Joseph.
There you go. So
and,
Joseph
and they
being
have
interviewed.
Him. I knew Vance. I know him. I talked to Vance Joseph some as the secondary coach of the Texans when I covered the AFC. And did not. I mean that's early in his career. Did not find him to be an impressive talker.
Yeah,
for what that's worth.
I think Joseph is an interesting defensive coordinator for an inexperienced offensive coach, but he's for the number one seed. Like I don't think he's leaving unless he's leaving to be a head coach. All the other names, if you're talking about the Jeff Hafleys of the world, they have to get in the wild card interviews right away if they want to interview wild card teams. That all has to be requested, I think, and then done before like Thursday or Friday. It has to happen like 2 days before the game's played. So you got all these guys that they're going to go after, not just Denver and Seattle. Chris Shula with the Rams. You got Robert Saleh with the Niners. You got Hafley with the Packers. All kinds of coordinators. I'm forgetting. There's the defensive coordinator for the Jaguars. Like there's all kinds of names out there that you're going to see kind of trickle out here. And we'll see. Brian Flores being requested in the comment section. We've talked about this. There's backstory there within the Titans organization that says probably not. But I think Brian Flores would be an excellent head coach with a good quality up-and-coming offensive mind as the OC. I think that'd be a good combination, but I don't think they're going to go Brian Flores. So we'll see. Who is this going to be a 14, 15, 16 person list by the end of it all?
I think 10 to 12, but it's got potential to grow. So we'll see. 10 to 12 I heard, and that was including Stefanski, but not necessarily any other fired people. Still potential for, more fired people in the next day or two. And then conceivably, after first round of exits. So we'll see.
So I don't know. Bustin says he's a big fan of Anthony Weaver. I am not on board with that. I don't think Anthony Weaver is a quality option as the head coach. Wouldn't have a problem with him being the defensive coordinator. But we'll see. What other names is there? Is there a list of names that you really like in terms of the top 3 to 5? Like, do you have a finalist group that you would like to see them zero in on that you personally like?
Well, I mean, I confess I know the most about Stefanski and I know the most about Saleh, and those are my top 2 guys. Here's what I think Saleh's an alpha. I'm into alphas, and I'm going to write this probably as soon as tomorrow. I don't think Borgonzi's afraid of an alpha.
No, I don't think.
But I think Strunk and Nihil are, and Strunk and Nihil cowered in the face of the last alpha they had. Couldn't manage the last 2 years of an alpha who was doing alpha things as they screwed up the rest of it, and had to let him go. And if they didn't let him go, he wouldn't be 14-3 right now in New England as the 3rd seed. And that makes me think that while Borgonzi is empowered to hire this coach, that if they have a chance to chip away at it, assess it, sway it, they will sway it to someone softer. And I don't want softer.
What did you make of Cam Ward's comments today, where he was talking about the search, and he was like, I want a guy who can really relate to the players and get along with the players. I thought that was kind of I don't know. Again, with Cam, you never know if he's sort of just like letting it fly.
No, I think that's touching on what I'm talking about. I mean, for the last 11 weeks, they had a powerless guy. So it doesn't matter. I mean, I think they would have liked it better if it was a powerful, a more empowered, powerless guy, if that makes any sense.
Well, it's more personality. Like you'd be more aggressive, like more like just, out
a big personality guy, even though he didn't have any power. But look, whatever Callahan had in that department, he lost quickly when his stuff didn't produce for them, and McCoy didn't have any of it.
Adam and Portland,
I just don't think that flies. I do, just going back to what you said, relatability is gigantic. If you can't relate to a locker room circa 2026, you don't have a chance. And that's why I am reluctant on Mike McCarthy. I don't know how many years ago it was, and I think I brought this up before. I don't know how many years ago it was, but these young coaches around the league have the successful ones have uncanny ability to relate to the players of 2026. And Mike McCarthy was showing Austin Power videos to the Cowboys on Hard Knocks. And I just don't think stuff that was like key to you and I in our 20s.
Childhood for me.
Right. And, college years.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I totally agree with you.
Is relatable to these guys. And I think I could totally see Mike McCarthy showing that stuff and acting like it's hip and cool to everybody, and guys poking each other and going, what the F is this?
He is so uninspiring.
Out of touch.
He's so uninspiring. Adam in Portland, we got to get this hire right. Callahan was so bad, we just can't afford to take chances on another coordinator. Matt says Chris Shula, Raheem Morris, Zach Robinson. I love the Chris Shula idea. I like Raheem Morris a little bit less. I don't think Robinson is ready.
But but go back to that for a second. He said head coach, coordinator.
Oh, sorry about that, Matt Mosley. Yeah, combination wise, I think that's really interesting.
He's putting together staff.
Yeah, okay, I like that. Sorry, I read that.
See, and I think Raheem Morris is the other way. I think Raheem Morris is all about relatability, works too hard at relatability, and lacks kind of authority.
This is what I mean by Borgonzi and the effect he's having on the locker room. To your point, I don't think you need to be buddy and try to be like friends with the players, but there's a respect level that you've had bosses that you respect and you've had bosses you don't respect. There's guys and men and women that you like to go to you're going to go to the mats for, and then there's guys, men and women that you're just like, fuck this guy. Like, I don't have any, why am I going to hurt myself over this guy? And I think that is what I feel like they're getting after with their conversation. Like, oh, this guy knows what he's doing. And I think he has this way of being authoritative without an ego, which I think is a skill. That's a skill. Like that is leadership psychology stuff 101. So I think that's what they're getting around to.
Yeah, I agree with that. With the Brownlee move, for example, like, hey, this guy's probably good for us in terms of Sunday play right now, even with the penalties, but he's not putting up with him for these reasons. And he's made a pretty strong statement with that move.
And kept it classy throughout the post movement, hey, I wish him the best. Like he still was able to do all the professional stuff too. Breaking news, Paul is into alpha men. Callahan was an omega. Logan says, are you taking Lanning? He's an alpha. I love Marcus Freeman over Lanning if they're going to go college. I don't think you're going to pry Lanning away from Oregon.
Freeman's
right now.
not coming out, and
but that's what
Lanning's not either. It doesn't seem like.
I agree with you there.
I also think there's look, those guys are probably bulletproof coaches. Like I like them on game day and prep week, but there's a hell of a lot of stuff. I mean, they need two really professional coordinators and a senior assistant who's been there, who, is a Jedi for them, who's a friend. Do they have all of those resources?
I think Freeman, and here's the thing, the college coaches who are quickly becoming successful are the ones who function a lot more like an NFL coach. You have to make big time adjustments. You got to break from trends. You got to manage a roster. You got to be, it's way more complicated than it used to be. In fact, it's more complicated than an NFL coach to some degree with all the roster stuff. I think what makes Freeman great is the alpha relatability personality traits. I think I don't know if he's a great schemer on Sundays. I think he is a great culture building alpha male type that we're talking about. I think Lanning has some of that too, but he also has way more influence on the scheme than Freeman does. So I think Freeman is he's the only college coach that I would really go after. And I don't think, to your point, I don't think he's leaving Notre Dame. I think he's very happy there. And I don't think they're going to hire a guy like that. So I think if you're going to go that direction, that's the only name I like, but I don't think they're going to go that direction is sort of where I'm at on this. Let's see here. Thomas says McCarthy, Stefanski, Morris, Shula, and one more alpha would be in my top 5 in any order. Again, I don't think Mike McCarthy is a alpha in this situation. I think Stefanski can be, for sure. Besides Bones, do you see anybody else staying, PK?
Stocker. I would bet on Stocker.
Okay. Let's see. I've been around too long to consider anyone a home run hire. I think that's the truth in coaching searches, no matter what, no matter how good you guy.
Risky
it's just tough, man. It's very, very tough. Jason says Nagy's resume is as good as anyone's they're going to hire. Not sure I get the fan backlash. I think it's because we assume, people like you and I, that he's just hiring his buddy and that he's already tried once. And while they were successful with a bad quarterback, it doesn't feel inspiring either. It's way more inspiring than Mike McCarthy, though. I don't know where you're at on that.
He also was, the story came out by Dan Pompei at The Athletic that was meant to kind of puff up his case. And I think it kind of weakened his case to a degree. Like he went to Chicago to be you. That was his big thing. And all these coaches, even Mike McCoy said today, he'd advise the next guy, be you. Everybody goes to be you. And then they wind up when things start to go wrong, not being them. And that's what Nagy did. He was him for the first year and things worked. And then when things started going wrong, he looks back and he says, I didn't stay me. I got off course and whatever. It seems to be really hard for guys when things start to go wrong to stay true to what got them there. And that seems kind of weak-minded to me. I know it's harder than I'm making it out to be, but I remember watching it happen to Greg Williams right away. Greg Williams went up to Buffalo. But Greg Williams was a great guy here, had everything going for him. He went up to Buffalo and he had bullhorns in the hallway, waking people up on their in the dorm rooms on the first day of camp. I'm like, that's not Greg Williams. Like, what is he doing? He just thought he had to put on a head coaching persona and screwed himself and got, even more egomaniacal. But Nagy, if he couldn't hold on to his personality, for longer than 1 of 4 years in Chicago. That makes me question.
Funny Greg Williams story, and I hope this doesn't make you feel any sort of way, PK. My senior year of high school, you know how you go shadow someone, right? You go shadow somebody who's got a job, like an adult. I went with Greg Williams to the Titans facility, and I sat in a linebacking room with Keith Bullock, and I can't remember who else was with him. And I was playing high school football at the time, so my knowledge of play design was fairly rudimentary. And I'm sitting in a linebacker NFL linebacker meeting room in 1999 with Keith Bullock and somebody else, and I have no effing clue what I'm listening to. But he was very nice. He was always very nice to me. You know, lived down the street, and he was very kind to take me to a Titans meeting room. So it was very cool. No, Greg Williams, always good. Kubiak interviewing with Atlanta, says Andrew. Yeah, I believe with that. Let's see here. See if I can scroll through. I do think that I was looking at, because I want to talk somebody mentioned in the playoffs the Jets stat, and I want to quickly, obviously, some NFL news here. Sinkers Beverages, by the way. Sinkers Beverages. Myles Garrett gets to 23 sacks. Very cool story. I think that's a great story in the NFL these days. The Jets not having an interception is maybe one of my favorite stats ever. No team has ever, in the history of the NFL, finished a season with just 1 interception. The fewest ever in a single season is 2. I wrote that 515 pass attempts the Jets faced this year.
You get one by accident. You get one by a tip ball just by accident.
It's unbelievable. Titans finished 4th in the draft. Somebody asked earlier about Tate, how I'm kind of out on Tate. I do think Ruben Bain is kind of the only pick at 4 if he's available. I don't think Reese is going to be available. I do think if you're watching the playoffs, and I'll have some of this for your website, PK, coming up this week, Dante Moore and Fernando Mendoza are playing against each other on Friday night in a semifinal. You could not want them to play better. Like, if you're a Titans fan, you want to see both of them play extremely well in the semifinal. This could be a 2-quarterback draft, and they could go 1 and 2. And so I think
they're going 1 and 2.
That's not what you want, but
that's what's happening.
You want there to be a third one. We shall see. So the Titans are picking 4th. I don't think it's Tate. I don't like Tate at 4. Reese might be 3rd. So then who you got? I think Bain is the best football player, and I think you have to take the best football player who's going to make your team better. It also makes trading Simmons or Sweat a real possibility potentially in the future.
They're not trading Simmons.
They're not trading. No, I know they're not trading. I'm just saying in the future, if you've got a great defensive tackle or pairing, it makes some of the other players a little bit more tradable. I don't think I've done a lot of the mock drafts. I know you do this stuff too. You trade down to 9, you trade down to 10, you trade down to 14, whatever it is. That's where you get Mekhi Lemon. That's where I think Carnell Tate goes. I think you can get a number 1 receiver in that 9 to 14 range and pick up a corner or an edge rusher later with extra capital. I still think that's absolutely the right move, is to go from 4 down to one of these other spots. And oh, by the way, like I looked at the Titans schedule. They'll play the 1st pick, the 2nd pick, the 5th pick, the 6th pick, the 7th pick, the 10th pick. They play a lot of the top 10 next year. And a lot of these teams out of the playoffs, if you'd have told me, PK, at the beginning of the year, Detroit, Tampa Bay, Baltimore, Dallas, Cincinnati, and Kansas City and Washington would all be out of the playoffs, I would have said, what happened? So.
And those sound like, you list that, and they're all decent candidates for bounce back. Are the Titans?
Absolutely. So I just think it's, to your point, like, you can go up and down real fast in this league. And if you get the right coach hired here, you can go up pretty quickly for the Titans. Quarterback's healthy, have a great draft class, good free agents. It's not that crazy for this Titans team to be much better next year. And it won't take much to be better than 3 wins, because they've been really bad 2 years in a row. So
I've been very anti-Jeremiah Love based on positional need. But I think if you're stuck at 4, I have been thinking more just about value and skill position.
I'm coming around on that too.
Yeah, I think there's more of an argument to be made than I've been willing to listen to.
I agree with you. I did some mocks today where I was like, I'm picking 8th. The best player on the board is clearly Jeremiah Love. It's too early for a receiver or a corner. Let's go with Jeremiah Love and see what the rest of the draft looks like, because he makes your team better. And I do think investing in mostly offensive pieces outside of some get an edge and get a corner, but I think mostly offensive pieces, I think you're in good shape. You alluded to Ridley, by the way, on your show, maybe coming back. Is there more to that than you think? than we thought?
I think that Calvin Ridley is not a certainty to be gone.
Okay. Is that relationship with Ward still has plenty in the tank kind of deal?
I think it's what's out there in terms of veteran wide receivers and how much will they be able to get in the draft.
Yeah, that makes sense. So we'll have lots of draft stuff. The good news is some of these players that Titans fans should be targeting or thinking about all played extremely well in the playoffs so far. Ruben Bain has been the best player in the sport. I think 4.5 sacks, block kick, tons of tackles, dominated Ohio State and A&M. David Bailey was great, even though the offense for Texas Tech was terrible. Bailey was great against Oregon, 9 tackles, pressures all day, got a sack that's incredible. He leads the nation in sacks now. So there's plenty of like really good players to keep an eye on. Keontae Scott is a mid-round target at corner for Miami. Like we can keep going. Like there's so many great players to watch. Lots of Oregon Ducks. Uyunglele was very good for them. He could be a late first round, early second round target for them at defensive end for Oregon. So a lot of really good pieces to be watching. Indiana's corners and receivers could be targets in the mid rounds for the Hoosiers. So lots of really good players playing on Thursday and Friday. Are you fired up about the playoffs? Like, I think there's some really, really interesting matchups this year. I did not, Jags Bills, that's a crazy unforeseen game.
Yeah, I think they're better first round matchups than there have been. I'd have to look back, but I think the 7th seed has screwed things up most years, and I don't feel like it's doing that to the degree it has in the past.
Yeah, you got the Chargers at the Patriots. That's a 3.5 point spread. Niners and Eagles is phenomenal. That's going to be a great game, 4.5 point spread. Buffalo and Jacksonville feels like two teams that are like
that's a good game.
That could be an AFC Championship game. Jacksonville's the hottest team potentially on the planet, and meanwhile Buffalo has Josh Allen. Houston and Pittsburgh is juicy. Pittsburgh's the home team; they're an underdog.
I think that's going to be. I think Houston. I think Houston's going to really, really. I don't think Pittsburgh's scoring more than 10.
No, I agree with that. And then Bears Packers, of course, in my household is a big deal on Saturday night.
That's huge.
And
they've given us 2 really good games, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, one of them was very good, yes. Then you got Rams and Carolina, of course, taking the Texans slot on Saturday afternoon. Longer the Texans slot.
Carolina deserves Saturday more. That's a screw. That's a screw for the Rams traveling east on a Saturday.
They are a 10.5 point favorite. They lost to the Panthers in Charlotte recently. They are a 10.5 point favorite in this game in the playoffs on the road.
And I think that spread could move their direction.
I tend to agree. You got any quick picks here? I'll ask maybe next week, but do you have Super Bowl picks here?
Man, the AFC.
Mine is Rams Texans. That's my
AFC pick. Is so difficult. I picked Seattle a while ago, maybe like 4 weeks ago. I put a couple shekels down on Seattle for the Super Bowl. I really like the 49ers also, though I know defensively there's some questions. Right now, I think I would take Seattle to win the whole thing. AFC is a jumble, but I'm going to do it, and I'm going to take New England.
Oh wow, that would be
Seattle,
good for
New England, and
good for content.
Malcolm Butler will be the most wanted guest on Radio Row.
Good for content, that's for sure. I think I was the one who was very pro. I was very pro Broncos at the beginning of the year, and you didn't like the Broncos. I'm not a believer. I like Houston because of the defense. There's just something about that defense, and you get to play Pittsburgh in the first game. I think you're going to pick up a W there. I've been picking the Rams.
I like Houston. Yeah. That's a good pick.
But Jacksonville is like insanely hot right now. They're at home, and if you knock out the Bills in the first round, nobody you're going to play after that's going to be necessarily more difficult than if you win that game. And Lawrence is on another planet right now. I mean, setting franchise records and all kinds of stuff. So
wide open. Anybody that not that Kansas City, if they got in, would have been that dangerous. But anybody lamenting the absence of Kansas City is insane. It's wonderful.
Quickly, I want to do this real fast. Also, I want you to just tell me chances of them coming back and if they're going up or going down. Right. So trending up or trending back. Chikakonkwo trending up on coming back or going down.
I mean, based on his tweet, you have to say down.
You're saying Ridley's going up. What about Lloyd Cushenberry?
I think the continuity on the offensive line now, Mike Herndon wrote a great piece about it last week. I'd say up.
L'Jarius Sneed.
Yeah, I mean, no chance.
Tony Pollard, by the way, had his best season of his career, rushing yards, 4.5 yards a carry, the best in 3 years. Really dependable receiver. Career season potentially at 28 years old. I know you've said washed. I've not necessarily disagreed with that, but like you could do worse than Tony Pollard.
How about this? Blake Benningfield wrote this morning. I'm on board with this. I've been down on Spears. I'm done with Spears, and he's done with Spears. He wants Pollard as number 2 behind whoever they get.
Okay.
And Spears gone and Mullings 3. I'm on board with that.
Okay, so Jeremiah Love 1, Tony Pollard 2.
Or, a free agent
Yeah.
younger than Pollard, or a mid-round pick.
Well, we got a lot of stuff to get to over the course of the next few weeks. Again, keep an eye on paulkuharsky.com for all kinds of coverage, all the other 440 sports shows. Of course, Nick Suss and I on Thursday. We've got college football coverage. We got pro football coverage. We got Titans coaching search coverage. We got NFL draft coverage already starting in earnest. We'll be back on the hot read after vacations for the holidays. The hot read will be back this week, so we got a lot of stuff to get to this week. Otherwise, enjoy the week, PK. What Sinkers Beverages, please. Dry January. You can do your dry January with the help of Sinkers Beverages. They have mocktails, non-alcoholic beer, and THC beverages as well. Stay dry in January. I'm going to try to do it until I get to Mobile on like the 28th.
That's not a dry January, Chief.
And I didn't. I was dry on January 2nd.
30 days have September,
I'm on
April,
my
May, and November. All the rest have 31.
Look, Paul. Let me teach you.
Yeah, I mean, you're bending the rules.
Let me teach you some wisdom.
You're
Infused
drinks.
You're in need of some wisdom.
Mocktails.
You
either do it or you don't.
So the reason that New Year's resolutions is one of the dumbest thing you should do to yourself is a resolution is a pass fail. So you're setting yourself up psychologically to fail because no one's going to keep track of, no one's going to be able to do all the things they claim they're going to do.
Admission of failure.
You have a New Year's intention. New Year's intentions are, hey, I intend to drink less. Hey, I intend to work out more. Hey, I intend to be off my phone. Hey, I intend to go walk outside. I intend to travel more. I intend to read more books.
I intend to fail at my resolution.
If you make incremental improvement, it is still improvement for you in your life.
God bless you. That's true. That's a very nice speech to end on. Good night, everybody.
I hate you so much. Everybody, have a good one.